Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rural Survival Show with Rick Schmidt and Tim Spencer. Today is Friday, the 1st of July, making this recording for publication on Saturday, the 2nd of July. Hope everybody's had a good week. Today, we're going to talk about some gardening and the economy and a lot of the stuff we normally do. Rick is here with me, which I think you can see. So, hello, Rick. Well, let's get going.
Try to adjust your vertical or your horizontal. We are in control of your television set. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that show anymore.
I do.
What was that? Outer Limits. Yeah. So. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, Rod
There are. Yeah. There are certain pros and cons to growing things like microgreens, and I'm not going to try to convince you of any of that. I want you to try it and make up your own mind. What I have found is that I think what makes it an advantage or a disadvantage is where you're getting your seeds, how you're buying them, what you're paying for them, and what time of the year that it is. I don't know that it is intelligent to try to grow microgreens this time of the year unless you're a market gardener and you're trying to sell them. Yeah, I mean, obviously, some people just love them as a kind of a health food situation,
Right.
but I don't know that you couldn't get the same thing out of kale or lettuce or collards. I don't know. That to me seems like an argument that I just don't care to have. It's, we're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic here.
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is, in my opinion, in my experience, buying sunflower seeds in bulk at your farm store in a 40 or 50-pound bag, you're going to pay $25 for that, and there's no telling, how many hundreds of pounds of microgreens you can get out of that. And in the wintertime, obviously, when you're not gardening, depending on what zone you're in, when you're not gardening outside and you're not able to produce your own intelligent plant material for your diet, microgreens at that point makes huge sense, and I would encourage it. One of the healthiest, one of the tastiest, and one of the cheapest seeds that you can possibly use for this is sunflower. So,
Yes.
Although storage of these things is going to be a kind of an issue, you just can't buy a bag and throw it on your garage floor because, of course, you're going to have issues with vermin. But if you can put it in a metal trash can or something like that, I wouldn't encourage you to put like huge amounts into one can because you always run the risk of uh, they a sunflower comes with a certain fungus on the shell, and I'm not going to get into it, but when you're growing microgreens, sunflower microgreens, typically you would soak them overnight in water to get them moving, but you would want to put a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide in the water, and that neutralizes the fungus on the hull.
Okay.
If you don't do that, when they grow, that fungus can get loose and destroy your flat. If you take and dump a few 100 pounds of these things into a big barrel and try to cover it, you might lose the entire barrel.
I see what you're saying.
you might you would be better off spreading that out in smaller barrels, to mitigate that risk. In other news,
Yeah,
the BRICS nations are right now working like a bunch of little bees, trying to create their own world reserve currency,
yeah.
and it will be backed by something. I hear rumors. It's supposed to be oil, precious metals, and some other stuff.
I think
I
you're
don't
right. I
know.
think it's a basket of those things.
It would make more sense than to back it with just gold.
Right,
But
because, right,
right. But I think that would be wise. You'd get a better, you'd get a more even cost
valuation.
average.
Yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, if gold plunges, then your currency's gone. So, why would you do that? Um, so, but however, interestingly enough, China right now is in some very, very severe economic. They've
yes.
got real problems with their population and their banking and just all aspects.
Well, you got
People
quite
would
a bit
like
of,
to think, well,
they, they've got a lot of social unrest right now too in China proper.
well, that would indicate they're not happy. They're not happy. Yeah,
Right, they're not.
yeah, they've got problems feeding the people. Um, yeah, and of course they're an abusive government. But so, but our Western news media would have you believe that these people, that China is invincible, that they're
Right.
this mega powerhouse, they're the next, they're the next world power, and that's always a possibility. But
Yeah.
uh, a lot of that is pure hype. So we'll just have to see how that fleshes out. Um, in the meantime, you've got some other fascinating uh, situations arising regarding real estate. Of course, we know that Evergrande out of China failed, and their subsidiary, the name escapes me, they were invested in Evergrande, and they also failed.
Right.
Now we have the Australian real estate market is probably looks like it's going to be the next to collapse. Um, uh, Volt, Volt Bank, I think that's right. Volt out of Australia is collapsing. They've got, I think, 200 million in deposits. They have warned their depositors, and I can't believe this. They've given those depositors 2 weeks to get everything out, and after that, that's the end of it. I can't believe that they actually just didn't pull a bail in. That's, to me, is mind-boggling, but apparently not. So,
Well,
but if you're
Australia
thinking,
has different laws than we do.
we don't have any laws. We over here,
We have
we make,
regulations.
we make it up as we go. Yeah, and usually it's the elite first and screw the rest of us. Um, I'm not going to get into how the middle class is being eliminated or eviscerated. It should be obvious at this point.
I think it
Um,
is.
yeah, it's that um, every single thing that happens is financially your debt and it's on your back, and you're not going to survive this collapse if you're all in the US dollar. You can't be. I mean, you can be if that's what you like. There are
Right.
members of my family that swear that the US dollar is king and will always be so. But then again, they're slated to get out of the mental hospital later this year.
Yeah, I hope
Um,
they do.
the Oh yeah, we need more of them on the street. Um, China, though, speaking of that, as we opined before the show, is going to remain locked down for another 5 years. They want to stay isolated from the world for 5 more years. Now, we know that between Ukraine and Taiwan, that was pretty much where we were getting our chips, our electronic chips,
Yeah,
and those sources are basically eliminated. I mean, we're just not getting them. And as
and
Tim
they,
and I talked about just a few minutes ago, um, Cummins Diesel, they make big trucks. I would hope you know that.
oh yeah,
They have lost confidence that they will ever get their chips.
well,
Um,
they will in about 26 months when we're supposed to start producing them here in this country.
well, you know what? At that point, I'd say thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
We've got you know we saw what you did. We're not about to forget what you did,
Right.
and we're not going to buy anything from your country. And I mean, not even rubber dog poop. We're not nothing at all.
No, I'm
We're
talking
going to
about
go
they're going
back.
to be making them in this country, Rick,
Yeah, I
in
know
the
what you're
US.
saying.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, but at that point, the supply chain will suddenly open up because they're going to say, oh, well, if we don't sell them now, we're going to have to dump them in the ocean, and they'll try to flood the market with that.
Right.
And I would just say, no, you're not going to do it. No, we don't want your chips over here. Just
Right.
sell them to whoever. They don't hold up anyway. Um, the On a slightly different note, I've noticed that with some fascination that the stock market keeps dropping by hundreds of points a day.
Right.
Let me check and see what's going on right here. Either and oh, now it's up 70. It was down. Um, it's been going down. I want to say fairly consistently, like 300 a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how can that happen? Well, even though the Fed and the plunge protection team swears that they're not involved in manipulation, in the first place, if I had to bet 5 grand, I would bet they're lying.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I would bet that they never tell the truth. But having the stock market come down so evenly is a numeric impossibility. Something should be going on here.
I agree.
We should be seeing 1,000 point drop, followed by a 300 point correction, followed by 1,000 point drop. You know, something that looks like
Right.
controlled panic. I'm not seeing that. They're
Well,
letting the air out of the balloon slowly, I believe, and they're doing that through manipulation.
well, my guess is the Fed's, market desk, buying desk, whatever you want to call it, is probably really busy.
Well, yeah, but they claim they're not doing it.
Right. But they have to be.
They are exactly. That's my point. They absolutely have got to be, or it wouldn't look controlled. So, and I guess does this actually come as a shock? But I have to laugh. I have to wonder. At what point? At what point will they actually lose that? What will they let go of the leash? Will they actually let slip the dogs of war? When does that occur? I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be long. And I'll tell you why I don't. All
Yeah.
right. Do you remember the second Gulf War? How there was a 6 month buildup or maybe it was the first one. Anyway, there was a 6 month buildup. We put in all these troops, all this equipment, and all that. And the general public was asking, right up to the day that we went into Kuwait and all, that was first one. If we were going to really do it, if we were going to pull the trigger. My whole contention, the 6 months leading up to when we did pull the trigger, was you don't move all these men and materials that far and spend that money without having a war. You've got to justify it to the people. And that's exactly what happened. Now I see this whole thing playing out again, Rick. You know, we're going from 40,000 ready, 24-hour readiness troops up to 300,000. The U.S. is,
Right.
paying for a lot of that, putting a lot of our troops in there.
So I heard.
We're moving tons of equipment, not to Ukraine, but to Europe in general. We're doing a massive inflow of, heavy equipment, the tanks, the artillery, all that. We're
Yeah. Well, I for one did not believe that would actually have the nerve to go into Ukraine. But then again, on the other hand, I just don't think he had any choice, and I'm not going to get into that in any detail because
right. You're just gonna make
I've
people
done
mad.
well, I've done it before, and I've even had my own family yell at me and say ridiculous things like you
Well,
would be
people believe all the propaganda they see on TV.
right. They were disgusted that I thought that it's fine for Putin to be in Ukraine, but what they never hear, what they don't know, and what they never hear, is that Ukraine is the home of the deep state. That is where the New World Order is
Yeah.
basically headquartered out of. So I don't care what Putin does, as long as he extinguishes that element from our lives. That's fine with me.
Well,
But
it's like the news saying, "Oh, there's no biolabs there." Victoria Newland,
right,
at the end of February, testified in front of the Armed Services Committee in the open, and said we had 40-something labs there that we ran and paid for.
right.
But you
I
hear on
heard
the
a lot.
news, "Oh no, that's not true."
Well, the news. Yeah, and I heard a lot of that stuff was Soros was behind some of those labs,
I don't doubt it.
or partially. So we have what? So and at the same time, I don't want to make light of the situation. Obviously, I mean,
No.
yeah, are the innocent people being hurt again?
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
are.
always, 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 always. They're always in the middle of it all. We wind up picking up the tab for everything, for high taxes, for bankers' wars, for inflation, which has all been created for COVID, uh, and all of that. We wind up picking up the tab for everything, um, and then of course the elite they giggle at us at their cocktail parties.
Oh yeah.
Sri Lanka is in full on collapse, by the
Yes,
way.
it is.
So I
Yeah.
hear. I haven't been there lately, but apparently they're out of food and fuel, and
Yes,
everything
both.
else is. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So there's going to be a bunch of Sri Lankans that are going to be very unhappy. Um, of course, there will be people. Of course, I would never say this, but it could happen uh, in your town as well. I know that's impossible because this is the freaking United States of a freaking America. So nothing bad ever happens in this place.
Oh no.
But you might want to talk about grabbing some food while you have a minute. I did see a interesting food storage video. It was very short, and I'm not going to get into it because hypothetically, you all know what you're doing. But one of the things that I saw kind of caught my interest was aside from the fact that they were touting the intelligence of storing rice, dry rice, and dry beans, which properly put up would last 20 or 30 years. The interesting thing about them is, and like they said, technically you can live off of rice and beans every day for the rest of your life. Now, I know you don't want to do that,
Nobody
but
does.
no, but I forget the name of the author of this little tiny book I read so long ago, but it was called Famine and Survival in America. There is one thing about living off rice and beans, and that is that you do wind up with a small protein shortfall. So you're going to require a little additional protein of one sort or another.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to need either powdered protein, or you're going to have to wrangle up some squirrel or something,
Right.
and that's going to be the way it is. The rice and bean combination has all 7 essential amino acids. Okay,
Right.
but then you're faced with what's called uh, food. What is it? Boredom? No, that's not right. It's
Oh, you definitely have that.
yeah, it's something exhaustion. It'll come to me. But what it amounts to is that certain old people and very young people, if they're faced with the prospect of eating the same thing every day, 3 times a day, they just quit eating and they die.
Yeah.
So they did bring up an important point, which is spices. You're going to have
Oh, yeah.
salt, and you're going to have various spices. Now, spices, of course, store well.
Yeah.
They come dry. They come dry, and so if packaged properly, they're going to last quite a while. They will lose their potency over time,
Yeah.
but I mean, let's be reasonable. A little bit of oregano is better than none
Right.
at all. Furthermore, I have a 50 square foot bed of this stuff. I it's almost, in some places it's almost invasive. Um, I would suggest you grow some oregano, and some oregano. It will come back.
Yeah.
Oregano is a perennial. Sage in most places will come back. So if you're growing oregano and sage, you're doing well. Now, a lot of things, most of these herbs will not come back, like
Right.
your basil and other things. You got to plant that every year. However, what I'm suggesting here is that you always have fresh, but have dried in store uh, for the middle of winter. Now,
Yeah.
at the end of every season, rather than allow the first freeze to turn your basil into black mush, which is what'll happen, go get that and dry it, and grind it up or smash it up or do whatever, and put it in some little jars. You can buy off Amazon
Yeah.
empty spice jars. They're standard spice jar. It's got a lid, and it's got the top on it, where one side is a pour spout and the other is a sprinkle.
Right.
Okay. You get them. I forgot. It's been so long since I buy them, but you get them like in a case of a dozen. They're empty and they're ready to go. Or save your old ones. We do
Yeah.
both. Save them, and before the first freeze comes and it destroys everything, grab some of that and get it out of there. Dry it, grind it up, and add that to your boucan.
Right.
The other thing, salt. Not that I want to get into it because it's a broad subject. Salts are not salts. I mean, there are various salts.
Oh, yeah.
Epsom salt is salt. Um, sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, is salt, but it's not. Um, as I mentioned on a show so long ago, the what is it? Chromographic? I don't think that's right. The analysis, the chromographic analysis, or I don't think that's the word. But when they analyze um, a when they divide anything into its parts, table salt, regular calcium chloride, has
Right.
2 things in it: calcium and chloride.
Right.
NaCl. NaCl is, first of all, if you're used to any intelligent salt, the stuff it's so horrible tasting, but it also dehydrates you.
Yes.
The so when you look at the analysis, you have two lines, Na
Yeah.
and Cl. Okay.
Right.
When you look at the spectrographic analysis of Himalayan sea salt, is 7 pages long. Okay.
Wow.
And further, yeah, I'm talking not a print this big, same size print,
Right.
but it comes from the sea, so it's going to have, many, many, many elements in it. I mean, it's going to have everything on the planet in there,
Yeah.
and it
Every
hydrates
gold, copper, everything.
whatever comes out of the ocean, whatever's
Yeah.
floating in there. Yeah, that's going to be it, and it's actually good for you. Not in massive quantities, but used as salt, it's actually beneficial.
Right.
There's one other thing you're going to have, and it would be non-iodized salt. You can buy Morton non-iodized salt. However, and I have a bunch of it, but since then I have learned a better way to deal with this, and I would highly recommend using kosher salt. Kosher salt is more useful. Kosher salt can be used for fermenting, pickling. It can be used for anything.
Right.
Preparing meat, jerking or drying meat,
Yeah.
anything like that. So, but you can't use iodized salt for that. And I don't even recommend you buy the stuff. I mean, okay, if you want a couple 100 pounds as a backup, go ahead. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it in my mouth until there was no choice at all.
Right.
If I were you, I'd be storing kosher salt and Himalayan sea salt. Don't get confused. Pink salt, Himalayan sea salt. They started calling Himalayan sea salt pink salt, and it is not. Pink salt is a nasty chemical.
Yeah. For curing meat.
It's for curing meat, and if I'm not mistaken, the lethal dose is 4 grams. If you get enough of that in your mouth, you're gone. Yeah. I don't know what 4 grams looks like, but it doesn't sound like very much.
It ain't much.
It can't be. So I'd probably try to cure meat without that stuff if you can. But be aware. Don't go to the internet and start ordering pink salt.
No.
It's sea salt you're looking for. Whether it's Himalayan or not, I guess is irrelevant. But don't start ordering pink salt. That's going to kill you. You don't want to mess with that stuff. Tim, I get the feeling I've been talking for a half hour. We've been talking for a half hour.
About 26 minutes.
Okay, one more thing then, and then we'll get moving. Beets. Beets has always been a source of fascination for me for a number of reasons. One, because it is a superfood, and when I say a superfood, I mean they dry it, grind it up, and sell it to you for ridiculous amounts of money. Right. Because it is just exactly that. Brian Kilmeade, the famous Brian Kilmeade, sells super beet powder, but you don't need to pay that. You can just grow them yourself.
Yeah.
They are a little difficult to get germinated, but it's not anything that you can't get done. Right, I don't either. It's not anything you can't get done with a little effort. One thing to note though is beets are multi-germ. Inside of every beet seed is either 3, 4, or 5 seeds. So when they do germinate, they're going to grow as a cluster, right. Which is not a problem. I mean, unless you're trying to sell at a farmer's market perfectly beautiful uniform beets, in which case you got to throw all away but one, right. Which you're throwing away a lot of good food there. That's a shame, but if you let them grow as a cluster, maturity date is around 55 to 60 days.
Right.
But what I love about them is they store in the refrigerator for a good 2 months.
Yeah.
They might not look so cool, after a couple of months. But they will be. They are. Um, they taste just like day one. The
We
tops,
can most of
the
ours.
top, and which is a great idea. You can't go wrong. Um, Beets, and I just love them. To me,
Me
they're
too.
as close to an apple as you can get.
Oh,
Um, in with respect to the bricks scale, BRIX, you can look that up later, but that's a sugar measuring scale.
yeah.
Um, they can be almost as close. They're almost exactly that of an apple. So when you cook them, I mean, it's hard to say if it's a side dish or a dessert, but they are absolutely delicious. They are amazing for you. The greens, take the greens off and cook them like you would collards.
Yep.
Once again, that is a superfood as well. Um, you can't hardly do any better than beets or beet greens. Do not try to store them in the fridge
No.
with the greens connected. The greens will suck. They will try to keep. They will try to sustain themselves in the fridge, and the leaves will start taking all the moisture out of the beet. So
Yeah.
if you're going to try to store them, cut the greens off and store them separately. I will tell you this: the no-till gardener, Farmer Jesse, sells them three beets for $3. Okay,
Huh.
so that's $1 a beet.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I don't recommend trying to buy beets at $1 a beet. I think you
No.
should just grow your own. As far as varieties go, there are some interesting things. Um, I have, uh, I guess, my best luck, my best production with the old standard Detroit red beet. Just a standard Detroit beet works great. There is another one that I do get from Hoss Tools called the Merlin beet. Merlin, as in Merlin
Yeah.
the magician, and they have the highest sugar content of any beet. I've got a whole bed of those growing right now, assuming that my neighbor did not let them die because I've been away for a few days. I would love to think I've still got beets. If I don't, uh,
We still
the,
got time to replant.
I got plenty of time to replant, but these were almost mature,
Yeah.
and I was looking forward to eating
I hear
instead of
you.
planting.
I
But yeah,
agree.
but, look, when somebody volunteers to help you out and you accept their help, it's not a good idea to look the gift horse in the mouth.
I agree.
So, you know, yeah, I would suggest that. One more quick note here, and I've noticed this is gaining in popularity kind of across all lines, and that is mulching your tomatoes. For the longest time, that was considered taboo.
Oh yeah.
That means that means bad for you 18-year-olds. Um, I'm kidding. I know there are no 18-year-olds here.
No, I doubt it.
Uh, but now it's gaining in popularity, and it looks to me like practically everybody is doing it, and they're just stuffing like a mattress, wheat straw up under the plants, and I mean they're piling it deep, and it's suppressing weeds and it's keeping um, moisture content stable. It's keeping the roots cool. You don't have to water as much, and it eliminates that splashing that comes off the soil when it rains and
Right.
bounces up, hits the foliage, and starts the wilt, starts the diseases that you can't control. Once
Right.
those diseases get going, you're going to lose your plant. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah.
I think, you know, I remember talking to Mike out of Kentucky about this exact subject. And we were talking about if you're going to spray with copper, why not spray the soil? And I said, yeah, I agree. Why not? Why not address the problem right where it begins?
I
Straw
agree.
will help. Straw will help do that. One more note and then I'll go. I know I said that three one mores
That's
ago.
okay. It's all right,
Soil,
Rick.
good soil. If you've got good soil, it's alive. Um, if you don't feed the soil, it will eat itself. It will feed off of itself. Um, it will start to consume all that which you have built up. It would be kind of like, what do they say? Excuse me one second. Yes, I've contracted the virus one more time. Um, you you can go 3 minutes without air. Uh, what is it? 30
Three,
seconds without water. I'm kidding. 3 days
days,
without water.
right,
What is it? 30 days without food.
right,
Okay,
supposedly.
but you won't look. Believe me, at the end of those 30 days, you'll look like you've been on the Michelle Obama diet.
Yeah,
Um, you're not going to look good. I don't know if you've ever seen any Nazi prison camp film, but your soil's going to do the exact same thing. If you don't feed your soil, it's going to start eating itself.
yeah,
So the point is this. So when you're not using your garden, when your garden is not in use, a lot of people, and I've really never seen the intelligence in using cover crops, but then again, I hadn't considered it from this point of view. Um, if you put a cover crop on your dirt, on your bed, when you're not using it, and I'm not going to, there are many, I'm not going to get into what they are,
yeah,
but if you'll do that, and then you'll go ahead and tarp that and extinguish that crop, leaving that organic matter under your tarp for the soil to basically munch on all winter. In the spring, you're going to have, I think, something that you're going to find very, very impressive.
Rick,
Even,
they
yeah.
even, when I was growing up, I was a little kid there on Merritt Island. Did you know they even used to plant cover crops in the orange groves? It was a type of melon, and
Oh,
they would plant that in the orange grove, and when it got mature, they just disc it in.
yeah. Oh yeah, I can totally believe that. One of the weirdest things I've ever witnessed, and I guess I've been gardening a long time, but I've never paid any attention to this. I had two beds last year that were heavily mulched with wheat straw just because I didn't have the time to deal with them. It
Yeah,
was the eggplant and the pepper, the eggplant and the pepper beds, two of them, two 2 foot wide beds by 16 feet. Um, when I went to amend the soil this spring, I pulled the straw back. There was absolutely no reason to amend that soil.
yeah,
It was amazing looking. I took one look at that and I'm like, done.
yeah.
One less thing. Yeah, like Forrest Gump said, one less thing. Yeah, so I just planted right in it, put more straw on it, and we keep going.
That
So
makes
I would,
sense.
don't abandon your beds late in the season to insanity. I mean, it's an asset. Your bed is your asset. It's where you're going to grow your food. Don't just turn it over to uh, weeds and dysfunction. Um, clean it up, and maybe plant. Google or go to Hoss Tools and look at cover crops. Pick one, plant it there, and then late in the year, go ahead and kill it, and see what happens for you in the spring. I think you're going to find that anytime you've invested in planting and extinguishing a cover crop, you're going to get paid back for with dividends.
I agree.
Anyway, I've covered everything I wanted to cover.
All right, we want to do a prayer this week.
Yeah, I do not want to forget that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about last week, guys.
Uh,
Holy Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him. We humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine power of God, cast into hell Satan and all of the other evil spirits who wander through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Well, thank you, Rick. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try to be back next Saturday. I can see no reason why we won't. I'm sure that eventually there's going to come a time when we won't be able to do this anymore, but I hope it's later rather than sooner. So stick with us, and we'll see you again next week. Hope everybody has a good one. Bye bye.